Hello, and welcome back to 100 Days of Magic, our epic journey to find you all the tips and tricks that you can use to unlock the magic within you. I'm Donna Woodwell. I'm the organizer slash host slash of the space called the Crossroads of Magic and Mastery, where people can come together and share your magical journey, get inspiration and ideas from others, and maybe meet some new friends along the way. We are diving into the 100 Days of Magic to explore a little bit of theory, but an awful lot of practice on how you can make magic for yourself. And right now we're in day 4 of learning about spells for discernment. The first day, we talked a little bit about what is discernment, because it always helps to know what you're trying to manifest before you set about manifesting it. We did a little bit of planning for what a discernment spell looked like, and since this was Jackie's idea for a topic, we focused specifically on Jackie's needs, because a spell, after all, is a programming language for working with the divine and meeting your own individual programming and needs here on the ground. When the two of them connect, you can have that whoosh feeling of bringing down the energy. Yesterday, we talked about adding an extra layer to a spell for discernment, what it would take to consecrate a piece of jewelry to help you maintain the energy of the spell. And today, we're talking about after the spell. So, hello to everybody who's here live. That's Barris and Jackie and Mary and Claudia I see so far. Yay! I'm so glad that you're here. When we're talking about making spells, as I said before, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to the actual ritual, but also to the process of doing a ritual. And the beginning and the middle and the end are a little bit different depending on what you desire to manifest. You can think of manifestation desires into two general categories. There's a little bit of overlap, but let's just say in general. There are spells that are cast to manifest a specific object or desire, and spells that are cast to change a behavior. And things that are cast to manifest a specific thing, I need a pearl ring. I need an awesome pair of boots. I need a whatever specific thing you're looking for. That has a tangible object at the end. But some things like discernment, or I want more focus, or I want more determination, those are fuzzier things. I mean, you can't exactly point at your life and say, oh, this is the moment I achieved discernment. Or, oh, this is the moment I achieved focus. They're ongoing practices. And so the kind of spells that we create for the single object, they're kind of, as they say, one and done. You might be able to do them once and then pull that object into your world. Things that are changes of habit, you have to recognize that changing a habit can take 30 days, 60 days, 90 days for your brain to actually rewire itself so that you begin to have those results on a regular basis. And so the spells that work best for those are the ones that we repeat, we come back to, we live with in order to make something manifest. And then there's spells that are kind of fit the ground in between. The two big ones that everyone always asks for is, prosperity spells. I need money, I need wealth, I need resources, and love spells. I want to meet my perfect partner. Those are hybrids because on the one hand, yes, there is an outcome at the end. You meet your partner or you don't. But there's a lot of changing an attitude that has to happen in order to allow those things to manifest. So you have a little bit of both sides of the equation going on simultaneously, depending on what your current situation is. So when we look at wrapping the loop, the closing the loop for a spell, it is going to be a different process depending on what kind of spell we are putting together. if we're putting together a spell, like for example, so I have this necklace. I don't know if I can get it off. It's a garnet necklace. You can see it. I wanted one for years, and I could never find something that was about the right size. And I must admit, I didn't spend that much time looking around. Every once in a while, I get on like Amazon and surf around, and I didn't see anything that fit the bill. This color is my favorite color. It's the one of the main colors of magic school as well. So when I met my partner in crime for magic school, Robin, in New Orleans for our annual planning retreat, I mentioned to her I've been wanting one of these necklaces forever. And she said, well, let's just manifest one right now. And so we did our little intention setting spell. We're going to find this necklace in this city somewhere. And then we wandered around together as we were continuing our conversations, kind of following the vibe until we found a vendor who had the necklace that I'd wanted, which I had literally been waiting for like 6 or 7 years for. So that is an example of a very informal kind of spell of setting an intention. We didn't even do anything specific other than following through by walking around until we came across what we were looking for. All happened within the matter of an hour or so. So that is one super, super simple spell that you might be used to doing and you don't even realize you've been doing it. Sometimes all it takes is a really clear intention and then a couple steps past that to make sure that intention manifests for you to find what you are looking for. All right, so when it's something more complicated, like discernment, it helps to have some kind of especially helps to have some kind of journaling prompts or measurement as you see the changes being brought into your life. So on the one hand, you might want to repeat the spell. So when you design your spell, you're going to be designing one that, that you will do over and over again on a set schedule. Your schedule is relative to you and what your needs are. It might be for a discernment spell, as we talked about with Jackie, every Sunday at midday so the sun is high to keep reinforcing that idea. It could be journaling about how have you used discernment today? What choices did you have to make? How did you choose an outcome? And how does this outcome relate to your connection to spirit? It might be as simple as that, asking yourself that at the end of every day or at the end of every week or every day every time you do a sun ritual, if you're using the sun. When have I used discernment and what did it look like? And how did it make me feel? Because the object is to train your subconscious to do that more often and do the other things less often. And when we train our subconscious, we do it by giving our subconscious a cookie every time it does the right thing. Training your subconscious, now that I've had this large, enthusiastic, 70-pound red dog, I have had to spend a lot of time with dog training. Training our subconscious is very, very, very similar to training a pet. You reinforce the good behavior by little treats, and you discourage the bad behavior by turning your back on said animal until they calm down and try to get your attention again. Your subconscious works is kind of the same way, only getting your attention is actually it's very similar to my dog. My dog, when I'm not paying attention to her, goes and she finds my socks and she steals it and she runs away. And if I don't come after her and get the sock, she will do one of two things. She will either sit down and proceed to eat the sock, which will get her attention, just the negative kind, or she'll come and find me and she'll shake the sock in my face and then run away again until I get the message that she wants attention and she knows I don't want her to eat my sock. So your subconscious will do the same thing. If it's trying to get your attention, it may not be an actual sock, but it can create all kinds of crazy in your life so that you are testing what you want to learn. So for Jackie, if she's really serious about changing her relationship to discernment, she's going to attract in circumstances that let her exercise discernment until she figures out how it works. That's the learning experience. Hence why I say magic is kind of like accelerated karma on this front, because you are standing there saying, in the language that the universe uses to program itself, it's like you're speaking its own language for a change. I want this. And the universe will respond with, okay, let's work on this. But you can't work through things unless you have opportunities to apply what you are learning. That's just, it's what we need. That's what three-dimensional school is for. So as those moments come up, it's helpful to see them in context with the spell work that you are doing, because one, it gives you faith that your magic is actually working. You know, the worst thing you want to do, okay, maybe it's not the worst thing you want to do, but a thing that you can do in a magical practice. A lot of people like pick up one spell, they read it out of a book, they read the words, they perform the actions, they stop, and they move on, and nothing happens, and they decide that magic doesn't work. Well, they didn't actually try magic, so their conclusion that magic doesn't work is fallacious logic. That is flawed logic to begin with. So just doing things half-heartedly and expecting change, occasionally change happens because your whole system is so desperate. Yes, I want to change it. It will manifest. It's like, okay, good enough, let's go anyway. But if you're actually living a spiritual life, you're actually working, you know, that kind of half-baked attempt is often not enough to make change, because your spirit guides are like, yeah, really? Is that the best you got? Kind of like when I was in graduate school. I got straight A's and 1B, and the 1B was from the professor. She's like, you weren't even trying. So why should I give you an A if you're not even trying? You didn't even read half the books. And I'm like, finally, someone is paying attention. And I asked her to be my thesis advisor because I knew she was the only professor that I had that cared about what I was doing. And spirit guides are often like that. If you're not engaging, if you're not co-creating, you're not going to manifest what you're asking for, especially if you're working on those deeper levels. So yeah, when you're at the baby level, maybe, but not when you're getting serious about it, because they're like, duh. So Jackie says, oh my gosh, I'm already starting. The choices are coming up that I'm having to say yes or no to, rather than just saying yes to all of them. See, once you magnetize a thought, it's that whole power of attraction thing. You are going to start the process, and it's going to move very, very fast in some cases, because you're putting your attention on it for real. You know, not being like a sprinkler system and throwing the water everywhere. You're being like the laser, targeting what you are trying to manifest. It is a very efficient tool, as long as you remember that using magic to create new habits, if you try to do like 5 new habits at once because you can't decide on which one you want, you've gotten back into the sprinkler system mode again, and it's not going to work as well. It is much more efficient when you are learning magic to pick one thing and do that for a month, pick another thing and do that for a month, so that you have serial intentions. That way you can keep your energy really clean and really focused. I would never try doing more. I mean, have any of you ever played Dungeons and Dragons or some other kind of fantasy game where your characters have classes? And some people are fighters, and some people are magic users, and some people are thieves, and whatever. And in cases, some of these games, they let you be a dual class character. So you can be a fighter magic user or a thief magic user or something. But if you are a dual class character, what happens? Well, you have to earn all the points twice over before you can progress to the next level. And in those beginning levels, you don't increase in levels nearly as fast as the people around you, because you're splitting the effort. But when you get up to those higher levels, then you have like a really badass character. So If you're the type of person who insists on doing it the hard way, fine. Be a dual class wizard. Have two of these things running at the same time, but you will be putting in twice the effort. You're not going to get away from that. And yes, it might get you there faster at the end, but if you're having a hard time with just one, let's just stick with one until you feel like you have the confidence to be able to do more than that. Because, bringing in discernment or something else is a big thing. So, wrapping up what we said today, following up on your magic, it's really helpful to keep track of what happens in your life after the spell so you can know A, how the spell is working, B, how you are reacting, C, what things you might want to repeat in the future, because magic is an experimental science. And sometimes we do magic and nothing happens, or it just fizzles. Sometimes we do it and huge things happen. And part of the experiment is figuring out what the difference between those two things are for you. And then remembering that some things that we do in magic require us to change habits. And when we change habits, habit is a hardwired set of neurons that all fire together in your brain. It takes somewhere between 30 and 90 days for those neurons to get hardwired. And so if you are changing to a new way of being, just plan, even with the best of intentions, all the magical help in the world, you still have to build it one brick at a time, or in this case, one neuron at a time. And that's why you want to keep track of what's happening so that you can see the changes coming in your life and make them permanent. Otherwise, you are, does Jackie want to learn discernment, use it for a month, and then sit it on a shelf? I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. I think she wants it to be more of a part of her life. And in order to change in the long term, you actually have to change the way your brain works. Okay? Awesome. What we're going to do next, since people have submitted all the usual spells in our Facebook group collection. And we have spells asking for prosperity, spells asking for love. And the third category in my head, I call like self-improvement spells. And so we have a request for discernment. We have a request for focus. I think there was something else in there. I had it on my list, but I don't remember right now. Anyway, so the next 3 days, we're going to talking about the spell for focus that was on the list. Because the process that we go through for discernment and focus may involve different planets, but it's the same kind of change that we have to make in our lives. We have to understand what focus is. We have to understand what makes it work so that when we do our magic, A, we know who to talk to. And as we're learning the skill of focus, you need to learn how you can use it, what it requires. Otherwise, you will be unsuccessful because, you can't build a plane without wings. It just doesn't work very well. I mean, if you have no wings, then you need a giant engine and it's basically a rocket, but it doesn't fly well. And it's the same with these habits. Build the wings that they need to be successful. Otherwise, you're just pushing against the wind. Okay? All right. I'm glad you're all here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until then, I hope that your life is filled with magic. If you've got any questions about this session, please put them in the chat underneath and we can continue our conversation. Jackie has added on, I'm learning boundaries. It is hard, but necessary for my own sanity and because my progress moon just happens to be in Gemini. Yeah. So we use the sun for our discernment spells because the sun sheds light on the circumstances that we are see. So we know what to choose. But every spell contains its natural opposite because we need its natural opposite to balance out the energies. So in the case of a discernment spell, its natural opposite is going to be Saturn, because once you see the situation and make a choice, the opposite has to come in, which is Saturn, in order to set boundaries for Saturn. Every time you say yes, you are saying no to something else. So when you get into the spells and you really see how they work, you can begin to understand how all this planetary energy holds together how we experience reality. And some things we have choice about, and other things are the necessary thing that happens because we made this choice. You can think of it as fate if you want. It's that dance of fate and free will that we are constantly experiencing. But we'll talk about that more as we go through these other spell conversations that we're going to have. Okay? Take care, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.